The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the bridge between belief and disbelief is abandoning salah. If you're struggling with your salah right now, well, we got the perfect solution for you.
And that solution is the Athan app. This cell phone, we usually have it and it's using us instead of us using it. But with the Athan app, you can use it in perfect alignment with your life.
The Athan app is already used by 40 million believers around the world. Why? Because it caters to your Islamic lifestyle. On top of the salat times, you get du'as, dhikr, the Islamic calendar, Ramadan calendar, suhoor and iftar times, Hajj and Umrah guide, Qibla finder, and much more for free.
So download the Athan app now.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We just finished recording the episode, and I can firmly say viewer discretion is advised. If you're not of age, especially if you're not married or going to be married soon, do not watch this video. Viewer discretion advised once again.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to another episode of Salafi Tea Time. Inshallah, we are going to begin this episode. No, I'm just playing, bro. It's 3 Muslims, realest podcast in the dunya. We got a very special guest once again, brother Gabriel Al Romani. Assalamu alaikum, bro.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
Bro, I like that. Salafi tea time.
Salafi Tea Time, bro. Maybe, I don't know, if you guys want that, let us know in the comments. Hashtag Salafi Tea Time. If we get 1,000 likes on this video, inshallah, we'll consider it.
Yes.
But we got Sheikh Ol Nikah again for a very special episode on secrets to a spicy, intimate life with your wife. Or wives.
My wife?
Not your wife, just grammatically.
Bro,
your wife.
rephrase that. But
Yeah.
before we even go into today, a quick
No.
note from our sponsor.
He does this every
We are
episode.
sponsored by... No, I'm just playing.
You are gay. You are a transgender.
All right.
Let's get it, though.
Bismillah.
Inshallah. Bismillah.
We all got to take a sip first. Let's go. Bismillah.
Huh?
All right.
That's what Bengalis have.
Say alhamdulillah.
Bismillah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay. What, as a counselor, right, I'm sure you deal with a lot of marital issues, marital cases, extramarital stuff too, I'm assuming, right? What is one of the most common... Actually, you know what? Let's take it back a bit, because everyone's like, why are you guys always talking about sex?
Right.
Why are you guys always talking about intimacy? So,
Are we always talking about it? though?
Yeah, bro. According to them, bro. So what is the importance of it? Like, why are we even talking about this in the first place?
طيب بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells in Surah Rum, He says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. He said from His signs. Ayat is like an ayah of the Quran, which is a verse, but it's also سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْأَفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. So it's also an evidence or a miracle. Right? So from among these miracles that He created from yourselves wives, and He has put between you love and mercy. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says first love, and then mercy. Love is there, is the driving force, is the energy that creates life, subhanAllah. You know what I mean? I mean, of course, by the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it is the energy that creates life. So by default, making love, I mean, that's how you create life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously, again, going back to the 21st century, we talked about this before. Today, and I'm going to try to use the term making love as much as I can in this session, inshallah. And you can see how the term changes your perception on things. If you were to say sex or smashing or
Something more
people
vulgar.
think a bit, right? It's like dirty and okay, it has a place in your relationship. We'll talk about that, no doubt.
Definitely.
But you see already people get like, oh, because today it is something that everyone's concerned with, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yet, of course, a lot of people, due to what's happened in society, media, they kind of feel like it's something dirty, taboo, you shouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about it? Is because it is the main driving force in a marriage, making love. Because you're making love. You love each other, a man and a woman loving each other, and building that love and that relationship through the act of intimacy. A man and a woman connecting to that deep level where not only their body become one, but like their souls pretty much get close, their hearts, like look, just physically speaking, you know, the hearts get together, emotions flow. The way, if you analyze how the body reacts during intimacy, during making love, the hormones that are released, what happens in the body, it's nothing short of a miracle, man. And Allah says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, and from His miracles. All right? And not to mention that the main objective, other than uniting and enjoying each other in halal, you've waited your whole life. You've protected yourself, what we call afafa, chastity. You've protected yourself your whole life. You've, held yourself. You've lowered your gaze. You've tried hard to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now you're finally allowed to enjoy. Yes, enjoy. But putting aside the element of enjoyment, by the will of Allah, that act of making love creates life, man. Right? SubhanAllah, you impregnate your wife and she has a baby, your baby. And then you build a family. And there's more love that is nurtured through that family. Now it's not just the husband and wife loving each other, but now you have another object of love, which is your child, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, subhanAllah. And more love gets generated. And we're talking about it because in our counseling sessions, in our experience, we find that this element is missing, or it's somehow not done properly. People don't understand it, and a lot of it has to do with what we said, either media, distortion of its name or of its essence, and many other elements in today's society that make people to fail in the most basic, important elements of this union, of marriage, of the relationship. You know what I mean? So that's what we're talking about. We want people to realize that if your love life is good, if you can remove the barriers and connect on that deep level, then I always say that if love life and communication are good, of course, by default, your taqwa and your deen has to be, like we're not even going to say,
that's basic,
that's basic. But we shouldn't even say, oh yeah, like deen and taqwa is like number 1. But if your love life and communication between husband and wife are good, I think you can sort any other issue out in your life. So that's why.
Alhamdulillah. So we're not like one of those channels that's like, oh, this is how you get women. This is how you get her to home base. This is a trick to keep her infatuated with you. It's not like that.
None of that, bro.
This is genuinely
how to keep a wife.
People's relationships
happy.
Better. Keep your wife happy in life, inshallah.
Keep her fulfilled.
I do like the change in wordage. It definitely changes the vibe.
It does.
Like the way that you were saying it is like, wow, there's haya in this. It's like it just seems like very natural.
Yeah.
But when we say like smashing and I'm not even gonna say the other stuff.
I was just about to do that.
You start listening, you're just like, you can't even be serious anymore. Like
it's goofy, bro. It's not academic anymore.
Yeah.
So may Allah bless you for that. But
look, there's definitely smashing happening, but that's between you and her. That's once you establish that relationship, there's going to be a more emotional manifestation of that love. Sometimes it's going to be more carnal. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, that's the whole issue of shahawat and desires. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you your desires in halal or in desires in haram. Right? There's boundaries. Like even when you look at intimacy, making love, the Prophet ﷺ only forbade one thing. Other than that, it's pretty much open, right? There's some limits, of course, within the Sharia, no doubt. But yes, there's a time where a husband and wife are more just into desire, like literal, just physical, carnal desire, and sometimes more just emotional and combined. So it's not just one way, but society makes you think like it's just one way, one objective, and it's just like smash it,
hammer it down,
and move on, kind of thing, right? And it's all about you. Like you just satisfy yourself. It's me, myself, and I, and whatever. It doesn't matter whatever everyone else does, and there's no issues of ethics or morality or love or passion or emotion. It's just whatever. And I don't know.
SubhanAllah. I mean, it's crazy because when you mention like, a baby comes out of this, life is formed out of this. It's like it's almost like it hit me again for the first time because we're so detached from that. It's like it's not making love. It's just like it's doing whatever. It's pleasing yourself. It's this very liberal concept of I need to feel physical pleasure to feel fulfilled in life. It's like, you're going to have children, inshallah. Like, that's such a big thing nowadays. Or back in the day, it was not so much anymore, unfortunately.
And bro, it's no wonder that when you type the 3 Muslims on YouTube or Gabriel Al Romani, what is one of the first searches that come up, bro? Intimacy, bro. And that's why we've partnered up with our brother Gabriel Al Romani. This is not a joke, by the way. For a lot of the new viewers that don't know, we've actually made an intimacy series, believe it or not. Editor, you can put it up on the screen. I think we got 50 or 100 or 150,000 views like total in all the episodes. There was like 8 or 9 episodes total, bro. There's a lot of stuff that went into that, inshallah. So this is mainly like, this is kind of like a cliff notes, like a summary for anyone that didn't watch that or any new viewers. This is just to give an introduction. Of course, inshallah, we'll have Gabriel in the future when we get our proper studio in a few months, inshallah. And we're going to do a lot of intimacy stuff, foreplay, everything in detail. All the mothers and fathers can tune out for now, inshallah. And no, I'm playing. Mothers and fathers need to hear this, bro.
They need to tune in.
What I mean is my mom and dad, if you're watching this. But anyway, with that being said, bro, I think we have about 35 more minutes. Let's go right in, bro. So what are some of the major problems that you see in couples today?
So with regards to making love and intimacy, a lot of people are uneducated, right? So it's the whole talk before you get married, what we call sex ed. So you have society today have giving sex ed to children at like the age of like 7 or 6. I was looking at the curriculum, I think Southwest Wales or Irish curriculum. Someone sent me a document and I was looking at it. I was like, you guys are teaching this like 7-year-olds and 6-year-olds?
Some people don't even get taught.
That's the difference.
Some people don't even get taught, yeah.
But you have to be taught, but not that way.
It's better to be not taught than inappropriately taught.
Inappropriately taught. I mean, it is inappropriate. I mean, I like that.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, I mean, first time they opened up that subject with us in school was grade 9. And we're like already 14. It was a bit late because we're just laughing what a joke, you know.
And all I remember was, masturbation's healthy. You guys need to explore yourself. That's all I got.
It's ridiculous. So I think this is parents' responsibility. If it is educators, I mean, within our paradigm of Islamic schools and so on, it should be done in collaboration with parents. Like that part of the curriculum has to be agreed upon. Yeah. It has to be all stakeholders in a child's life should be somehow, involved. The main ones are your parents and the educators, because it's such a sensitive thing. It is so primal, it's so deep, it's so important that if you teach them the wrong thing, it's very hard to undo because it stimulates the most inner desires. So we find, for example, children who are exposed to certain sexual acts at a young age, the age of 7, 6, and it happens as young as that. They stumble upon a porn stash of their parents, which a lot of people don't understand. They have. Even some of the most conservative people will have this, which is wrong, man. This is totally wrong because this guy or this girl stumbles upon this stash, watches it, okay, and all of a sudden, the first experience they've ever had with intimacy is that. And it's very difficult to remove that from your mind. It's literally, it's imprinted in the back of your mind. And you might not even realize your body changes, your brain changes. And what happens is, it's a trauma.
It is.
It is a trauma. And with trauma, especially that's so related to your instincts, what you're gonna want to do, first you're gonna be shocked. You're not gonna know why your body's reacting that way. And yes, even at an age, you can experience pleasure, confusion. And what do you want to do? You want to get more. You want to understand more. First, you're gonna be scared, gonna pull back, and next you want to get more. So now you start exploring. And no one knows, no one's telling you stop, and you explore more and more. And your concept of the true, pure form of love is now distorted. And I could say that majority of people go through this. I mean, subhanAllah, I don't know if I've ever dealt with anyone who has said, no, I've never seen these things. I just grew up. I mean, I'm sure there are, but we haven't. Obviously, people come to us. Somehow, whether it's in the back of the class, some boy comes and, look at this, man. Look at this magazine. Back in the days, right? Boys would become, look at this magazine. Yo, look. Now it's like, look at my phone, right? Just WhatsApping, Telegramming videos, sharing links. Forget about, look, it's so easy. Before, teacher would come, smack you, take it away, talk to your parents, whatever. Now it's just like, I say.
I want to ask you, like, why is this happening, though? Because I know in the Desi communities and a lot of Arab households, there's this taboo, vibe with intimacy. Like, parents don't like talking about it. Because you got to realize, and I know I know you're going to get into this, but in Islam, there's no necessarily this restriction in talking about intimacy with the kids.
Right.
You see the Prophet ﷺ, you see the Sahaba. Everyone was very open with this topic. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think in the West, there's this whole, like, let's not talk about it, right? It's awkward. And before you know, you have stuff like Epstein's Islands, and you look at Christianity, bro, with the priests and the kids in church, bro. Like, we're very open as Muslims, right? Is that true or no? We should be.
Well, I think open, like we need to define that word, right?
Transparent with our kids.
Okay. I think the West is very open, too open. So you have that balance, the West and non-Muslims, right? Today's society. And then as a reaction, the Muslims in the West and in Muslim countries, they're kind of like, oh my God, I don't want my kids to know this. Like, okay, I might be engaged in it myself or whatever, but I don't want my kids to know this. It's like kind of like the parent smokes, but if he catches his son smoking, smack, why is smoking? Haram. Right? It's like we have this, I think it's a good intention. It's an intention of trying to protect the child because
Bad action.
yeah, the parents realize that, subhanAllah, this can really disturb my child because it's probably disturbed them. So they try to protect them, but in doing so, it's not about screening your child away from something that is just primal. You want to screen your child from, yes, pornography and what's around, all the distortions, but you want to have some kind form of guided exposure or education to the subject at the right time. Now, when is the right time? It depends. Okay, it depends. A parent has to be aware and observe the development of their child. I mean, that's why they're shocked, because they're never engaged in their development. They don't realize that, whoa, wait a second. They kind of just wake up like, oh my God, he's already 13 and I've never had the talk with him. By 13, trust me, the talk, there's no need for a talk. He's already done his research, or his peers already educated him in the wrong sense. So what happens now, this child has these preconceived ideas about, he's not making love anymore. He doesn't want to make it. He wants to smash it. All right? So he takes that, and that keeps being conditioned. Parents become even more shy. Let's say there's a discussion. What would the child be like? Mom, don't talk to me about this, it's haram, right? Or something. And the parents get all, like, they don't know. Parents come to us. Parents come to teachers and like, when should I have the talk? Can I have the talk? Can you have the talk? I'm like, I'm going to talk to them about, I might give a lecture about it. But it is sensitive. So most people don't want to be in a sensitive situation. They just pull away. They say, well, I'll make the offer or something like that. Let's see what happens. And most children, boys and girls, have sexual experiences as early as 7, be it pornography, be it masturbation, be it there's a lot of abuse. A lot of the first introduction to intimacy is through abuse. And most of the time it's from very close family members, cousins, even, a'udhu billah, very, like brothers and sisters, man. Like, we have so many weird cases. And imagine, when you dig deep into it, that person was doing the abuse have had a distorted image of intimacy. And because they don't know how to control those feelings and emotions, no one to talk to, they want to express those emotions, they're going to do it in that way that they've been educated, which is wrong, towards that child. So, like, I was talking to one of the clients, and they were saying that, so her cousin did something to her. And he was a bit older than her, right? Imagine she's 6, bro. 6. So he's done something, like, stuff like penetrative at that age, bro. Right? She was like, he took my virginity at the age of 6. So she said, I thought, like, she didn't know what she feels, but she said, I thought this is like love. And he told me that he loves me. And my parents didn't tell me that they love me, so I felt very attracted to that. But then I would do the same thing to my neighbors, girls and boys. And one day he caught me. Like he walked in on me and I was with a girl neighbor. So
Like a little kid.
yeah. So she's 6 and the other girl was like, whatever, same, 5 or 6. And they were doing stuff. And the guy saw her and he's like, what are you doing? This is haram.
You're the one that caused
Right?
that. Yeah.
And like, imagine she's like, she said, he set me down and told me like, this is not allowed, this is not good. And she basically said, but this is what you taught me. Like you said, it's love. And he said, she's my best friend. I love her. So I want to express my love towards her because that's what he taught me. So imagine there's this butterfly effect almost, this chain of reactions that happens. That girl might be going to her class later on at the age of 7 or 8, like kind of what happened in one of my schools, and the whole class was corrupted, right? And they're like, come, let me show you something. Or, hey, let me show you something. And the other one, like, let me show you something. And it just spreads. And then within 10 years, like, you got a whole community corrupted, right? And the parents are still saying, like, oh, no, be careful. Don't talk about this. Let's not talk about this. It's shyness. There's a difference between having haya about something and educating. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if you're too you're not going to learn if you're too shy, if you're not willing to ask. Now, we have to find a balance, and we want to be as academic as possible. I know some of it's joke and whatnot, but it's a very serious issue that needs to be addressed and solved, right? And yes, haya, respect, and so on, but we have to educate. And like we can't be talking just openly about weird stuff and whatnot, just being very rude. That's what the non-Muslims do, right? And that's where the Muslims are like, oh my God, I don't want my kids to know that. They already know that. But you have to educate them. You have to tell them. You have to express. See, the Prophet ﷺ, for example, one of the first more descriptive incidents when it comes to intimacy is when they migrate to Medina. And there was a different culture when it comes to intimacy, in terms of positions, for example. Yeah. So the Sahabas they were marrying women from Medina, very different culture. They wanted to have intimacy in a different way. So the Sahabas were asking from a perspective of, is it permissible to do it like this or to do it like that? So we find that they're going to the Prophet ﷺ and getting educated when it comes to intimacy. So was the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't say, astaghfirullah, we should not be talking about this. No, there was always education. We see also for younger girls, for example, getting married. The females of the community were preparing her sometimes for 3-4 days in terms of just talking to her and just getting her ready, getting her beautified and so on, and telling her stuff. And it was not something like, I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm going, in this. And you're like, what am I supposed to do? Right? So there was education. That's what I would like to say. I mean, don't have to go into too many details, but there was education with respect, with haya, at the time of Prophet ﷺ. And we need to do that with our children. As I said, parents and schools together in a joint effort, guided exposure within the halal to understand, mothers to talk to their daughters, to be close to them so that they can open up to them and talk about these things. Does your daughter come and say, well, I have a crush, or I like this, or I feel like this, or some daughters don't even know what a period is, man. They get scared the first time they get their period. You're bleeding from down there, right? It's a very terrifying and traumatizing event. A mother should tell them this. They should, and it shouldn't be like, like it's more of a shame thing. Don't tell your father, or come here, or whatever. No, it's like you should be proud of her that she's become a woman. Celebrate it to an extent, like, love her and tell her you've now gone through another level in your life. You know what I mean? Yeah. And same with men. Yeah.
Look this way. I was gonna leave it, but this has been killing me. I keep looking at this little piece of lint, bro.
So relate to what you were saying before. A lot of people, unfortunately, have a very disturbed view on sexuality, intimacy, and all of that. So, unfortunately, since they have this view, how do they take care of that? Because we want to talk about how to have a good intimate life. How do you do that if you're, disturbed in that sense?
I mean, as we started, right, you're coming from that point of being disturbed, being damaged, being traumatized. Yeah. And it's almost, trauma is difficult, right? Like, how do you come from having a perverted view of what intimacy is to bringing it back to within the halal realms, right? Mm-hmm. So, interesting case study. When 50 Shades of Grey came out, the book, forget about the movie, the book. I mean, the Muslim community was in crisis. But it was probably the first time that, and I was I think I was a social worker at that time in our community. And I know there was a lot of divorce and problems because husbands were catching the wives reading that book. It was the first time, I would say, within the Muslim community, Western Muslim community, probably Eastern as well, where like female sexuality was like coming out, you know? Like people were like, what? I don't recognize my wife.
Why would that be a problem though, bro?
It was a problem because, again, people are not educated. Right?
There's
People
a false
have
haya,
there's a
false piety.
Yeah, you have to have haya, but does that mean that you cannot
Over-pious,
have good intimacy with your wife? Now, 50 Shades of Grey is a whole different thing. But what it shows, and we can discuss about the whole bondage and, you know, being rough and whatnot. But what it exposed is that there's a lot of suppressed desire
Freaks.
and in females. Now, don't think that it was just from their fitra. These women were already going and conditioned through society, and all of a sudden, this just kind of, it was the cherry on top.
Yeah, but you know what this reminds me of? The other EP we were talking about, where we were saying how like every woman has that like that freak inside them. You know, we could say a different word if y'all want to have some higher here. Well, you said it was just how
halal freak,
is,
bro. Yeah,
right.
It's not about freak. It's about they have a wild sexual desire.
we're human beings. At the end
Yeah,
of the
but
day,
what
bro.
I'm trying to say is that like it's bringing it back to where like you are the one that's in charge of bringing that out of her, but it's also you who could also lock that away. You know,
And she'll
like,
find other avenues,
Like, you
yeah.
know, maybe she's starting to let it out, and then you're like, yo, where did you learn this?
Right.
Like you said, in
Astaghfirullah.
the EP. Like you said in the other EP. So
Yeah.
I like it. It's all tying in together.
It's a balance between bringing it out and locking it. It's about controlling it, right? Because
How did the men respond though with the full 50 Shades thing when it came out?
yeah, the men were shocked and they started divorcing their wives.
Really?
As opposed to understanding it. Look, that's the question, right? So what do you do when you're in this kind of situation? A community, men and women, who have been conditioned, have gone through this process of being exposed to these perversions, right? And then here you are now, face to face, everything's on the table. How do people react? Because I can guarantee you that a lot of those men themselves have been exposed to these things. But it's the whole concept of and misconception that women shouldn't have desire. They don't have desire. It's been popularized by the Judeo-Christian tradition for hundreds of years, right? The myth of the female orgasm and so many. You know? There's just so much that's been happening. And it definitely influenced the Muslim community. So now finally something comes out, shocked. Like people are like, oh, I don't recognize. Like they're saying, I don't recognize my wife. Like, who is this person? Like, is this really there? And of course, like, where did you even get to that point? I totally believe, though. I always said this. I believe had there been no porn, no social media, none of this conditioning,
yeah.
right? I think a man and a woman can just naturally please each other in a beautiful, innocent, yet very
Primal.
and organic and passionate way. But here we are in the 21st century. Everywhere you look, hypersexualization. Do this, smash that, this is big, this is small, go to this store, you know, everywhere.
Toys, gadgets.
Gadgets, right? What do you do? Like, how do you deal with this? Just, okay, that's it. What are you going to divorce every woman? Because I would tell you that literally from our cases, even women from the village are being exposed to it. Men, forget it, bro. It's done. I mean, it's like all men, if not, you know, I don't want to just generalize, but most men have been exposed or are aware of these things. But you see, there's a double standard. Like, well, how come women? Like this guy who's questioning the one, most likely he's, you know, has been exposed to this.
You said this in the last episode too, that and for them they might have a weird order, but in the last episode that we filmed, you were saying that Allah has designed a woman with an organ or body part, the clit, which is strictly for pleasure. There's no other function.
Right.
Even as men, we don't have a specific body part that's
only
specifically
one
function, for just pleasure.
Yeah.
We don't, bro.
We don't. And it depends how you look at it. You can be like, oh my God, that's so nasty. Or you can be like, wow, you know, mashallah, that's like amazing, right? And you can explore that in a halal way and have a beautiful, intimate life within the boundaries of Islam. Islam puts the boundaries. Now, people can step outside of the boundaries, which we see everywhere, right? But why do people step outside? Because they don't even know the boundaries. Because they're not educated about it. They have no clue. And naturally, you're going to be inclined, like these things are attractive. Okay, we have to understand the whole concept of the forbidden tree. Why, in the end, Adam and Eve still, after being with Allah, after hearing from Allah, after being given a direct order from Allah, they still went and did it, right? Because these kind of things are haram is attractive. People, it pushes you. But so within what we're talking about right now is a lot of haram. So people are very, very attracted to it. Especially you see it everywhere, being conditioned. Every single day you're being told, oh, try this, try that. And you have this boring lifestyle where your husband sleeps with you like once a month or something, or your wife sleeps with you like once a month, both sides. And, you start talking to your girlfriends and your boys and whatever, and people are sharing now experiences, which is not good. You should never share your bedroom experiences, like a big nahi, or when you go into details and whatnot. It's different between educating and just going, oh yeah, I did this to my wife and that. People do that. And the guy's sitting there, his wife didn't give him any for like a month, right? And he's like, oh man. And he's like, don't worry, man, just go to like a massage place or something, You get sorted out or whatever. And the guy's like, oh yeah. So in his mind, now shaitan's gonna come and keep telling, yeah, man, this is not, look what this woman is doing to you. She's not sleeping with you. You deserve. And people just go, people commit zina, man, like there's no tomorrow. And if they don't commit zina, they're addicted to porn. And if they're not addicted to porn, just masturbate. Like, we're unhealthy, an unhealthy society when it comes to intimacy. Why is that? Because we're not willing to have these kind of discussions and to educate. When parents are not willing to sit down, schools are not willing to do it properly. So we leave it to everyone else for grabs. So the school boards and non-Muslim school boards do it. YouTube does it. Pornhub does it. Everything does it. And then people wake up and like, oh, why is my wife reading 50 Shades of Grey, watching whipping and whatnot, right? She's a freak, right? Because it's been built. That freak's been built over years and years. And you haven't fed that beast in the right way with some halal food. And now it's hungry. You know what I'm saying? Am I choosing?
No, you got it perfectly, man. I just think that it's actually beautiful. I don't understand why certain brothers would see this as an issue. Like we all have fantasies, right? Men, women. So like if I'm married and I walk in and I see that my wife is reading 50 Shades of Grey, like. Yeah, listen,
like
all right,
bring the whips, huh?
it's time.
Abdul, get the whips.
Rami, get the whips.
No, but I mean, how do you deal with this, right? So you could just divorce her and be like, this is bad, or you can understand what's happening.
Wallahi, bro, if I walked in on my wife and she's reading like a book like that, I'd be like, yes, finally.
What do you do if you walk in on your wife? Like, I had a client walked in on his wife and caught her she's masturbating, watching lesbian porn.
Whoa.
Wow.
I mean, see, the thing is, where's the limit, right? Or like bestiality. This happens. Or child porn, right? And this, like, again, like I've had a client he's like destroyed because he's like, what the heck is going on? So where are the limits? Because if you don't know the limits, bro, you can just fall into a dark abyss.
See, on your channel, you call yourself Real Problems, Real Solutions, right? So in an ideal situation, I know you just mentioned you start the kids young, you talk about, these things openly and from a very young age before they get programmed. But the reality is, just like you said, everyone's already conditioned, everyone's already programmed. So let's say you're dealing with a spouse that is already heavily conditioned, or maybe you yourself, very programmed, right? You have, you made yourself basically have a conditioning with getting off to porn. Or for a woman, she has these types of fantasies, or she's made herself numb with all these toys or whatever, There's a lot of these issues. So what do you do now with this couple?
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing story. What I can do and what they can do are two different things. But before we get into it, I wanted to say that, the main element that we've talked about, we said is the most important one in this, is the taqwa. Because the taqwa is going to put those limits. So yes, I mean, we can talk in another episode as to what's permissible, what can be done. But the taqwa is going to put the limits. Now, the mind and the fitrah is going to want to see what's beyond those limits. I mean, this is the reality, bro. Even for the most muttaqi, kullu bani adam khata. Every son of Adam will commit sins. Meaning you're passing the boundaries of Allah. The mind is going to want to, right? Especially in this environment. But the taqwa is what keeps it. I believe human beings, the way they've been, the way we are, the way we've been conditioned, like, we can do anything, man. Like, a person, by their fitrah, if they don't fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Prophet said, إذا لم تستحي فاصنع ما شئت. If you have no shyness, you'll do whatever. Men and women can do whatever, bro. But that's why the main ingredient is taqwa. That's what's going to limit you. Oh, you want to watch lesbian porn? Oh, no, astaghfirullah, I can't. Even if you're like inclined towards it. Oh, you want to watch, a'udhu billah, something, or bestiality or something weird, man. You know, totally outside of what's permissible. And people are like, it's just desire, it's just a fantasy. A lot of people just say it's just
not
a
real,
fantasy.
yeah.
It's different in the mind. It's some things are better just to be kept in the mind. No, because that's gonna be implanted in your mind. It's gonna grow into thoughts, into action, into plans, into actions, as Ibn al-Qayyim says. That's what Ibn al-Qayyim said. He's like, that's what happens. Start with that thought, just gets in there, it starts growing, and then you start planning, and it's gonna end up, and you're just on a slippery slope. So taqwa is, no, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. No, I'm not gonna do that. I stay within what is permissible. Yes, it can be a fitna. It can be a struggle, but this is where the success is. And there's a lot that can be done in there, right? But going back to the question, what do you do? It depends on the people as well, right? So wife walks on a guy, another client, and 10 years they've been married, and catches him watching a specific type of porn. And she sees that the women that looks at is not what she is. And she said, why? Like what? And he starts saying, I'm not pleased with you. I don't like you. Why'd you marry me? Mm-hmm. I can't be that white girl, like I'm this, And now it makes sense why you tell me to dye my hair and put, whatever contacts, green contacts. I'm not that. You're trying to change me, and she's traumatized. And she divorces him because she's like, you don't like me. And the guy doesn't even fight for him. Like, no, it's okay. I do like you. Let's work at it. So it depends on the people as well. Or, one of my clients, his wife was like just wild, bro, like asking for like anal sex and all kinds of weird stuff, pushing him to weird stuff. And the guy, he was a bit more traditional. He couldn't handle that. My advice to him was like, look, you have to understand she's a bit sick, so you have two choices. You either push a sick person to the curb outside, it's going to still be sick. She's not going to be healed, Or you deal with it, you manage it, and you become a bit more mature in how you address this issue. And you can try to help her to fight her fitna. Not everyone can do that, because especially for a man who is, from his perspective, his woman is his woman, right? I think, subhanAllah, it's weird. So, and again, not maybe linked to the fitrah, women can sometimes accept a bit more when men mess about, and they'll have more patience and stick around because they know it's kind of like in the fitrah of the man, and the whole like, I want more than one woman, and as long as we can fix it, I'll stick with you in general. But when a man sees his wife going into this weird stuff, I don't know, I feel that most men are not willing to take it on. They basically divorce their wives. They can't, their ghira and their jealousy, for example, one of the couples I was trying to work with, one of the brothers, I said, look, just have patience. But it was getting worse and worse. The woman didn't want to do anything, to the point where she would like be going on the street and like checking out guys, like, oh, look at this guy's thing, or look at that. And imagine you saying that to your husband. She can't control herself, right? She can't control herself, like doing weird stuff. And the guy was just shocked. He's like, well, how do I deal with it? He's broken. He's like, I'm broken. One other client, the way he said, I saved my whole life. I'm a virgin man. And then I found my wife that she lied to me. And she's like this, right? Like, he's like, I understand, but I made it clear at the beginning, and that's what I want. I want this purity. And here I am. So how do you deal with this? I feel that ideally, people should work at it.
Yeah, if instead of just call it quits.
Yeah, if both are willing to. But in many of these cases, as I can say, like one side is not willing to, right? So you kind of push your husband to the curb or your wife to the curb.
Is this a conversation you have with them to decide if they're both willing to? Or?
Yeah, of course, right? But it's not just about that, right? So it's about what happens in the next session. You recap. And, for example, the brother said, like, yeah, we went to outside and she's still talking about this stuff. Like, she's not willing to change. She keeps saying, I'm going to change. I come home, I catch her doing her stuff, Like, every time I come, I have to take the internet away from my home. I have to take
the miswalk.
I have to take the modem away, man. Like imagine you're leaving home, you gotta take the modem. Like what? He's like, I can't think, I can't focus on my work because I'm at work and I'm thinking, what is my wife doing at home? Or the other way around, right? The woman is whatever and she's, like this, it's, yeah, bro. It's like, look, this one sister said, every time I have an argument with my husband, he takes the phone and runs to the bathroom and locks himself up. And he does himself.
Really?
What?
And she says, I'm knocking the door saying, fear Allah, come out. I can do it for you.
This is haram.
You know what I mean?
Haram.
So she's knocking the door saying, fear Allah, come out.
She's saying like, well,
Yes, let's have intimacy. Let me do it for him. He's like, leave me alone. And he's like doing himself.
maybe that's his coping mechanism, bro. Because as a kid, maybe that's from the contingency, you know?
But see, there's still responsibility
100%.
there. You can't just blame your trauma. You have to understand it. You have to deal with it. But again, you have two individuals who are both maybe traumatized coming together. They've never solved that trauma, so there's no education around it. They are not even aware. They're not watching the Three Muslim podcast to understand what's going on. They've gone through all this. They think that somehow once they get married, that's it. Everything's gonna work out. And now you're on your night of your marriage. One's doing stunts and the other one's like clueless of what to do, right? And you're like, what the heck? You know what I mean? And then what happens in the next month? Well, one sleeps in one room and the other one sleeps in another room.
It's not congruent.
Because they're just embarrassed. Like, what the heck did we just do? What happened? Instead of talking. But things should have been done from way before, man. People should be educated, protected from these kind of things, right? But this is not the case.
That's why it's very important for the men and the women to, both meet each other in here in this situation that we're talking about. But also very important for the men to be the leaders that they're meant to be, right? Because if your woman is going in so and so direction, you have to be able to pull her back and bring her into this direction. And it's not to say like, oh no, it should only be super pure all the time and nothing like, primal, carnal. Because like we said, this is going to be there. Everyone has fantasies. But it's understanding this, meeting at the same place and then going at it together and understanding, even though that you're going at it together, you as the man are the leader. And like, if your girl has some fantasies like that, like if you walk in on your wife and she's over here watching pornography, look, like you set her down and you really talk to her and be like, look, like, that I love you. Like, I care for you. I take care of you. I do this, like, but this is not good. Like, you know this is not good. Now, you have fantasies. Look, I get this. I have fantasies. You have temptations. I have temptations. But we have to work with what we have available to us. Like you said, the halal, right? So it's
tough because again, how do you do it? Some people can do it. Like some people will take that approach, have that discussion, and continue and literally like have a mature attitude about it, knowing that, as you said, you have fantasies, I have fantasies. Why do we have these fantasies? Because we've been freaking conditioned into it. I keep saying, I don't know, personally, man, I'm old school, traditional, whatever, but I still believe in the purity of love making, right?
Yeah.
I still think if there would be none of this trash around, bro, right? Men and women could please each other within a matter of minutes, bro, without having all these weird things and whatnot. That's ideally. Now, what's happening in reality, it's a different story, right? I'm not absent. I know exactly what's going on and what to do. But I still believe, in the purity of the deen, bro.
Well, I got a question, though. My bad. You're saying that if someone is not adulterated by society, they will have, like, very natural tendencies. They 100%. Won't have, like, these crazy fantasies.
100%.
So you're telling me if there was, like, a village and then you had, like, married some girl in the village, like,
no internet, no social media.
You don't think she's going to be thinking about, like, getting ravaged by, like, one of the other tribesmen or something like that?
That's a good question.
Because you could role play. You could be like, oh, like you acting like you're from the other tribe and you're coming in.
you look. There's gonna be desire, but you see, these fantasies are implanted and disseminated through different things around. There's always a corruption of the fitra or something like that, right? There's always. I'm not saying people are not gonna have desire or they're gonna see someone that's attractive and maybe desire them, but it's not going to be to the level of what we see today, bro. Like, you're talking about some seriously disturbing things that are happening within the realm of fantasy. And what happens is that the way it works on your brain is that now your pleasure threshold is increased. So meaning you need more of that to be pleased. So men and women are not pleased, especially women, right? Because a lot of times guys they don't really know what they're doing. They don't acknowledge how complicated the female body is and the female sexuality is, how deep it is. There's a lot, and on the other side too, sometimes women don't please men. I have tons of men who are saying, I'm not getting enough, and so on. Usually for women is the quality. What's the problem? Usually for men is the quantity. They're not getting it enough. That's the complaints we get. So, but what I'm saying is that, I forgot, but we were saying, what was Bruh. But yeah, I mean, if it's natural, it's protected, it's beautiful. If it's whatever, let's say you've been damaged, you can still work. Yeah, that's the question. We can still work with what we have. Do people choose to work with what they have? Can they have that level of maturity and that kind of conversation to understand and to explore, okay, what's your fantasies? If it's a fantasy, is it permissible to explore it? To what level? I mean, we can talk about this in maybe another episode. I've had some discussion with some mashayikh about this. There are some nusus, some texts of older scholars from hundreds of years ago even discussing these issues. So what's permissible? Are you mature enough to discuss it? Can you? I would say a lot of people cannot. And I can't blame them. Like, imagine as a husband or as a wife, you have a purity, and then you catch your husband doing something very strange and weird. Are you really responsible to be like, oh, let me act that out for you? Like, if you've been raised in a certain pure way your whole life and you find that shocking, you want a very pure way. And maybe that's what you're looking for in a husband. And maybe you've been deceived in marrying this person. I don't know. Or the other way around. Can you just blame that person for wanting to leave? I wouldn't necessarily blame them. Like, I wouldn't blame someone for wanting to stay, who has a level of maturity. Like, look, you know what? As you said, like, you have yours, I have mine. How about we just talk a little bit and be mature about it and save our marriage? And maybe we can define the lines and just remind each other with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to stay within those lines. Because if not, then here's a woman who's divorced with fantasies, and here's a man who's divorced with fantasies, again, alone, single. What do you think is going to happen?
And you bring that into your next marriage.
Forget about the next marriage. Do even people get married anymore? People don't get married anymore. As you said, right? There's like toys. And I mean, I was looking the other day, this ad popped up. It's like, now you can just get a robot woman. Bruh. You know what I mean? And for the women, you got all types of toys and whatnot. So actually, people don't even want to get married anymore. They start just exploring these weird stuff. And a'udhu billah, it just leads you into another level.
I got this DM one day on the T3M Instagram. We get some interesting DMs, bro, to say the least. I'm sure you do too. And it was, what do I do every time I'm having intercourse with my wife and it's missionary? She always uses the vibrator on her clitoris while I'm penetrating. And if I'm just penetrating, it's not enough. She literally tells me to stop. She goes to get that vibrator, uses it, and then she can. And he's like, bro, I just feel so emasculated. I just feel like so just under, you know, like I'm not doing it for her anymore, and she needs this. And then he's having anxiety, bro, because her toys are bigger than him, bro.
No doubt.
How
do you? I keep saying to brothers, man, like brothers, yeah, the same type of stuff comes up. Women ask things, brothers ask things. You know, how do you compete with the Energizer Bunny? With what kind of batteries we have? Energizer, Duracell.
Yeah.
You know, just those vibrations alone. If you look at the what do you call the oscillation of the vibration, you cannot compete with that.
Yeah.
But why you even get to that point? Because once you go there, you think you're gonna want to come back to it. But if she doesn't know that, she's just used to what you have, right? But then again, the guy, maybe he didn't do his best in what he's supposed to do.
I DM'd him, bro. I was like, "What? Like, how did it even get to this?" He's just like, "Oh, it's always been like this." You know?
Always, because again, I mean, we're getting into another topic, but
we gotta wrap this one up.
But really quick, man, is because again, going back to the history, a lot of women cannot climax from the inside because they condition themselves through masturbation to climax from the outside. Imagine you spending 10 years. And yes, women masturbate. And yes, women watch porn. And yes, there's a lot more going in the female body than the male body. The guy is like, kind of like, it's very simple, man. Talk, 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 2 minutes, he's out. Right? For the woman, it's a bit more, takes more time, more conditioning. The brain changes when you are doing that. There's an association between that movement and what you're stimulating, that one organ, the clitoris, that's just designed for pleasure. With the brain, that's what you're used to. And now all of a sudden you get this guy who wants to do something different. Why a lot of women would not be used to the inside is because they're scared of losing the virginity, of breaking things, and having issues once they get married. So there's not going to be any internal stimulation usually, other than very basic. So it's much easier, faster, sometimes more pleasurable to just stimulate the outside, right? The inside is a whole different story. We can go into the anatomy and the sexual part of it in another episode. But a lot of times that's why women now want that. Plus, I'll tell you that's not the first time she's experienced that bullet or whatever it's called. She's been doing that for some time. So she wants what she's familiar with and what she's conditioned herself to climax with. And it's not enough. And that's why I said, see, you pass the limits, bro. There's no return. Trust me, there's no return.
Yeah.
The grass is
And so I have a rule, man. There's none of that are allowed.
For that, brother, I would tell him, learn how to use your tongue, learn how to use your fingers, and then once you got that game down locked, learn how to do dry orgasms. And then when she says, hand me the toy, you say, nah, baby girl.
It's easier said than done, bro. It's gonna take time, bro. It's gonna take.
Bro, it shouldn't reach that level.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
but the reality is, bro, it's at that level for a lot of people.
Even before, but that's the thing. The man don't understand the female sexual. Why does she need that extra stimulation? Because she's not ready. So there's a psychosomatic relationship between, like, the brain is related to your body.
He said she used to be like this when they met.
No doubt.
Like,
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, see, again, we said, what's the most powerful organ for a woman when it comes to sex? Your mind. You need to work that mind before anything. Because when you work the mind and you making love and you prepare, she's already at that, close to the threshold.
And it's long before the bedroom.
Right. It's right. So once she's close to it, just penetration is basic stimulation, even if you're using your hand or whatever, is going to take her to that level. But if she's not even, she's like down here, then that's why she needs the extra support. And you're just sitting there doing something. I would also say, there's no more passion in making love. It's just like, tuk, tuk, tuk. Okay, bring the toy. What do you mean bring the toy? Because there's no heat, there's no passion, there's no more love. I don't know, you look at these, just what's out there, it's just like, yo, let's smash. Yo, it's like there's no build up, there's no connection. Because it's more than just intercourse. It's more than just stimulating the clitoris, man. It's like a full body, experience where two, connect. And if you're not building to that, it's that love, that passion, the kissing, the touching, it's gonna bring her to that level, man. You just gotta do a little, literally, bro. A woman within 2-3 minutes can go explode. You know what I'm saying? But if not, you're gonna take about 20 minutes of that toy or whatever, weird stuff and whatnot. And it's forced. It's a forced climax. I'm telling you, a lot of these toys is just, I need to get off. It's forced. You're not really having that full experience that's coming from that really good sex, you know what I mean? It's just a force. Let me just get off.
It's literally called the rabbit.
You get off, I get off, and then we're good to go.
Bro.
No, bro, you haven't really experienced love making if it's like that. So for me, as a rule, man, I mean, I don't know, people, I've read some books from ulama, from muwassidin from this time, and they say, look, some toys are permissible. I believe it's not 100% zero. Do not allow that.
Slippery slope,
With time, maybe she can rewire her brain and get back to, I would say so. 6 months, maybe 1 year, slowly your body gets used to it. You haven't been, experienced that. But zero policy, bro. Zero tolerance, man.
Bro, this is what goes back to what I said, that as the men, we have to be the ones that are leading everything. Because like you said, as men, we can stimulate the woman. There's a foreplay before the foreplay.
No doubt.
Right? Now, if the foreplay before the foreplay is a real thing, which we know it's a real thing.
It's the real thing, man.
A story that I can bring in here from a friend that I used to know back in the far days was he had met this girl and she was using toys and stuff. And he basically, when he saw it, he told her to just throw it out.
Yeah.
He didn't say anything else. He said throw it
Gotta
out.
get rid of that thing,
And then
baby.
she said why, and he's like because you have me.
You don't need that.
And then from that moment on, she threw it out, and he continued to stimulate her mind before anything else. And
That's it.
She never needed it
You
again.
never need it again, bro. That's it.
That's powerful, bro.
Boom.
I think with that being said, inshallah, let us know what you guys thought about this episode. And Rami, end it off, bro.
Jazakallah khair for tuning in. And with that being said, Allahumma atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhab an-nar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, bro.
Go ahead, bro.
We have about 20 minutes left, so let's just talk about the.
Let's get into
No. Let's just make this like the taboo on intimacy or something, because there's no, bro. We spent like 60-70% of the time.
So what do you
We
want?
didn't even get into it. Let's just stick on this topic, bro.
Like how?
Like the taboo on intimacy and all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we can get into. I mean,
There's no
I don't
way
know
we're
what else.
finishing
You guys
in 20
have to give me questions. Start.
There's no way this is 20
Let's
minutes.
see where it
bro.
goes.
Do you
man.
mind if we interrupt you?
Please, man. Because I mean, I don't know where to go anymore. Khalas.
If we talk about halal sex, but they're gonna comment, they're gonna be like, bro, they spent the whole time.
Yeah, man, let's go. Come on, no, it was good to introduce it. Come on,
Sure?
Bismillah. Yeah,
Okay.
let's go.
Okay, editor, start here.
My abs.
Zoom in on that. But yeah, so all this being said, this disclaimer being said, right? Bro, I don't even know. Yo, pause. There's no way, bro. Let's the vibe
I
is
have a question. I have a
Today's
question.
sponsor,
This guy.
Lactate. If you have lactose intolerance and you got anal leakage, by all means,
Come on, bro.
make sure to pick yourself up a bottle of Lactate.
You are gay. You are a transgender.
Come on, bro.
Okay. طيب, back on the topic.
Wallahi, you're finished.